Let's talk trash. Literal trash in Portland. It's been more than a month since our mayor promised a plan. At some point.
I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Now he says he's got one. Have we seen it? Not entirely. We'll explain. Less than a year on the job, and Oregon State's new president is on defense, admitting he turned a blind eye when a popular football coach was accused of misconduct. Now a victim's advocate with a long history at OSU says he's got to go.
Well, I'll be very clear. I want President Alexander to be fired.
The federal courthouse fence may be gone, but the sting of tear gas in the air, it's back. Here's the story. Yeah, a lot of questions about that one. Welcome to The Story. I'm Maggie Vespa. Dan is off. He'll be back on Monday. And if you have thoughts on that, or frankly, anything else on this show, let us know. All the ways to contact us, as usual, are at the bottom of your screen. You can email thestory@kgw.com. Reach out on social media. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. We're always looking for it. And our team is watching for your feedback because, as you know, it drives this show. And if you've been watching The Story recently, you know that we've been talking a lot about downtown Portland. Is it dying? Is it coming back? And we were just talking about progress. Like literally 2 days ago, the Apple Store reopening, barriers around the federal courthouse that went up last summer coming down. 2 words, indoor dining. The Pioneer Square umbrella guy also, by the way, got his umbrella back. That one may be less important, but hey, the point is things were looking up. And it had been quite a while since we had seen big crowds kind of get destructive, a nightly routine that we got bizarrely used to last summer. That said, this is interesting. The last of the fencing around the courthouse came down yesterday, and around that same time, earlier in the day, elsewhere in Portland, a protest began. People were angry about a proposed pipeline from Canada to Wisconsin. And by the time the sun went down, protesters made their way downtown to the courthouse, and basically things got bad. Tensions erupted between federal officers and the crowd. People started setting fires, smashing windows, and spray painting graffiti. Our crews witnessed federal officers with shields using tear gas and crowd control munitions. And quite frankly, it just looked like July of 2020. And there were a lot of people who live here, don't live here, and actually also a lot of people who do, who were wondering, why is this still happening? In fact, one of our viewers tweeted, what the heck? More damage at the federal building over a utility pipeline that has nothing to do with Oregon. All right, so the short answer to that is there is no short answer. Not everyone there was protesting a pipeline. Independent journalists who cover these events regularly reported that protesters were there for tons of different reasons. Among them, the housing crisis, leaders refusing to reopen the case of Patrick Kimmons, a black man shot by Portland police that was recently ruled justified. The Derek Chauvin trial, he's the Minneapolis officer who killed George Floyd. ICE deportations, a lack of pandemic relief. The list goes on and on. So the question, does smashing windows fix any of that? No. But to put it simply, this is not an organized group with one clear goal. That said, we can't predict the future, but it does seem safe to say that we'll likely see nights like this again. All right, now to our big story tonight. It's the trash that we promised to you at the top of the show. I'll stop making that joke eventually. Simply put, the mayor announced today a solution is coming to Portland's trash problem. Details on that solution, to a large part, are TBD. But it does have a name, and a pretty famous donor is buying in.
Okay, for those that want to see what Portland is turning into, this is just by the PDX Portland Airport.
We don't have to tell you, Portland has a trash problem. It has for a while. We started digging into this more than a month ago and found in 2020 and continuing into 2021, the city has been cleaning up more trash than ever. Same goes with graffiti. But you wouldn't know it. In fact, the departments tasked with cleaning it all up say they're out of money.
And they look around and they see litter or they see graffiti as somebody.
Portland's mayor last month told me he gets it, and he promised help is on the way. He just couldn't say how much help or when.
I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
But Mayor Wheeler did tell us his newest hire would lead the charge. Former Mayor Sam Adams, brought back into City Hall life to tackle all things livability, trash being one of them. In the weeks since, we've been reaching out regularly, asking the city, what's the plan? Is it ready? Can Sam talk to us? No dice. Until this week. His office telling us, tune in Friday at noon.
We begin with a conversation about livability, economic recovery, and resiliency.
Enter Mayor Ted Wheeler's State of the City address via the Portland City Club's live broadcast. The mayor touched on several issues plaguing our city: homelessness, gun violence, protests, and trash.
Portland needs a deep clean.
Noting the pandemic paused major cleanups and sweeps of homeless camps, the mayor said those have begun again. Then, the announcement.
Today, I'm excited to announce the launch of the city's Clean and Green citywide cleanup initiative led by former Mayor Sam Adams.
The mayor said Friday he's pulling together all city bureaus and local agencies, including Metro, the Port of Portland, and ODOT, to ramp up cleanup efforts in Portland. But when that will start or how much it will cost, no news on that quite yet. Mayor Wheeler telling the Oregonian his administration is finalizing plans, but that he will seek to expand multiple sanitation programs in this year's budget, including increasing trash collection in and around homeless camps. In the meantime, he's asking Portlanders to get involved in volunteer cleanup programs like Solve. And he pointed out Clean and Green already has a big donor. Columbia Sportswear CEO Tim Boyle is chipping in $100,000 to Clean and Green. Columbia confirming that detail. For Portlanders, the help can't come soon enough. So, of course, we'll keep you posted. An update now on another story. A week later, we finally have some more answers as to why Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty was wrongfully accused of crashing into a woman's car and then just driving away. And just to be clear, crystal clear here, Hardesty was not responsible for that crash at all. So what happened here? How did Joanne Hardesty end up being accused in the first place? Well, in a late Friday afternoon document drop, which we all know is when the least important news comes, right? Portland police released the report from that crash and a few more answers to that question. The report says the victim of the crash told police that her car was hit by Joanne Hardesty, but according to a police officer's follow-up report the next day, Hardesty was quickly ruled out with the help of surveillance video. That same video provided a clearer view of the car's license plate, which led police to a Vancouver woman. She is being charged with a misdemeanor, and she denies that she was involved in the crash. We still don't know, though, how or why the incorrect information about Commissioner Hardesty was leaked. Again, we'll keep you posted. That said, let's talk now about a story and a controversy that has been brewing at Oregon State University. And we do want to point out it has to do with one of the biggest, most sensitive issues plaguing college campuses today. And that's the prevalence of sexual assault and misconduct and how American colleges handle, or too often mishandle, survivors' claims. That said, this story did not start with OSU. It didn't start in Corvallis. It didn't even start in Oregon. It did, though, start with OSU's new-ish president, F. King Alexander. He took the job last year after a 7-year run as president of, and this is where the crazy geography kicks in, Louisiana State University. The problem? Alexander's time at LSU overlapped with another high-ranking staffer who is now in, to put it mildly, boiling hot water. I'm talking about now former head coach of the football team there, Les Miles. And to be clear, Les Miles isn't coaching anyone right now, and that's all thanks to a USA Today investigation late last year and subsequent report from a Missouri law firm, along with years of reporting about both Coach Miles and LSU that showed that during his time at Louisiana State, Miles behaved inappropriately toward female students. Allegations include his trying to kiss students, inappropriate text messages, and he allegedly demanded that students hired to work in any capacity with or around the team were basically pretty and blonde. So this all came to a head this month after the law firm released its report that Miles, who has since moved on to coach at the University of Kansas, has now been fired. Again, after that report came out. That said, it's not all about Miles. Those investigations also detailed several instances of LSU athletes and other students attacking women on campus, and it found Louisiana State did not handle those claims correctly. Basically, claims were not adequately reported, and the school's Title IX office was not appropriately staffed. And by the way, Title IX is that provision that is supposed to ensure that women on campus and anyone who is assaulted are treated equally. So again, the vast majority of this happened under the reign of F. King Alexander, the guy who is now the president at Oregon State University. So there we have the connection and the controversy. Now, for his part, Alexander posted something of a mea culpa on Oregon State's website. It happened earlier this week, and he wrote in part, quote, "I acknowledge that we should have moved faster in more fully staffing and increasing the budget for the Title IX office and its efforts." And he wrote, at Oregon State University, Title IX and sexual misconduct are addressed much differently. Now, a lot of people are calling for Alexander to be fired from Oregon State despite his apology. And one of those people who wants him out is Brenda Tracy. She famously survived an attack by several football players at Oregon State back in the 90s. She's become an advocate since. I talked to Tracy yesterday, and she was really blunt. She feels like OSU should have known about all of this. They never should have hired Alexander, and now she wants him fired.
He knows what he did. So he knew what was potentially going to come out. This was kind of a broad, like, yeah, I should have done better, and I'm sorry. But would he be saying any of that if all this stuff hadn't come out? That's my issue, or one of my issues, is none of these discussions were being had when he came here to interview.
Now, Tracy also says she's worried about students at Oregon State University at this point and how Alexander's leadership will affect their safety.
What do you think students are taking away from this? Students who are at OSU right now, and they're seeing this story come out about their new president, and they're wondering, God forbid, if something were to happen to me, who could I turn to? And there's a lot that's been said about the system that OSU does have in place, but these headlines are big and they keep coming. What do you think they're taking away from this? What do you worry they're taking away from this?
Well, I'm worried that it's going to have a chilling effect on reporting on who people can trust. I'm concerned about the relationships within administration. You may have people on campus that want to do good. I don't know what kind of leadership President Alexander can provide if this is his history and he's not even really being accountable for what has happened or admitting to his failures, really. So there's a lot of different moving parts, but I would think that in general, students would feel really uneasy about who can I trust, where can I go, am I going to be believed, is my report going to be handled properly, are people able on this campus to do their jobs? It's not good. It's not good, and it's not putting us in the right direction. Our students, every campus student across the country, regardless of how you choose to identify as a human, all deserve to be safe on our campuses. And right now, President Alexander is not the person to create that culture. I don't believe he is, and I think that he needs to be dismissed.
Like we said, she was blunt. So for right now, we should note the Board of Trustees at Oregon State University says they are going to fully evaluate the report and its findings, and they will report back to the community. We'll let you know when that happens.
The president wants all Americans eligible for COVID vaccines by May. Oregon's governor says, great. Well,
if the doses are there, I have every intention of utilizing all available state and federal resources to match the president's timeline.
Okay, so has anything changed? When the story continues.
Welcome back, everybody. We are not too cool to hop on social media trends. We're not cool at all, actually. And we want to see the last photo on your camera roll before the pandemic really became the pandemic. I did this the other day. I posted on Twitter. It is wild to look back on those moments pre-COVID times. So share them with us with the hashtag HeyDan or any of those other ways that you can see right now on the bottom of your screen. And on that note, President Biden really, you might have heard, wants to speed up this whole vaccine thing and make every single American adult eligible to get a shot by May 1st. So what does that mean for Oregonians who right now might not qualify until July? So once again, Pat Doris takes your questions.
We have one question tonight. It's a big one. It's from Linda. She says, when will the OHA change the phases for vaccines based on the president's speech Thursday night? Linda, great question. The answer, as far as I know, is I don't know. I don't think they know, actually. I really don't. Here's part of the problem. They thought that on March 22nd, they would start getting about 200,000 doses of COVID vaccine. And part of that was about 80,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson. But now they're not too far out from that, and they're saying, you know what? We have not got any indication that that is actually going to happen. So now they're starting to think that maybe it's the very last week of March, which only has like 2 days in March in it, and the rest are April, that maybe that's when the Johnson & Johnson starts coming in. So because of that, they're being very cagey on moving any of the existing timelines. Right now, July 1st was the latest date that everybody in the state, 16 and above, could be eligible. And I think Patrick Allen, the director today, sort of let slip when he was talking, saying June 1st. I think they had planned to move that up to June 1st, but now because they're not seeing the vaccine coming the way exactly they thought it would, they're not even saying that. And so then when you and we and everybody else says, hey, what about this president's deadline of May 1st? They're like, whoa, I don't know. And in fact, Patrick Allen was asked that directly today and started doing the math in his head. Now, don't ask me why he didn't do the math in his head when the president made the comment last night or early this morning, but at any rate, he's got a better math brain than I do. And he said it would probably take 400,000 doses a week, or maybe 300,000. But that is a huge number. A couple of weeks ago, I did some reporting on what could Oregon handle if there was just a fire hose of doses coming in. How much total could we use? And it was around 300,000. The state had done a survey and kind of some guesswork too, I think. But they think anything over 300,000 is really going to be a stretch to be able to just have the logistics to make that work. So because of all of that, they're not ready to budge yet on changing the phases. Now, if they start to get 300,000 doses a week coming in, I think you might see them moving that thing up to June 1st. One other thing that they talked about today, actually two other things. The first thing is any woman 16 and older who is pregnant will be automatically eligible for the vaccine on the end of March. I think that's March 29th. That's a change. And also, we've been having some problems with people signing up on the Get Vaccinated Oregon site to be able to get an invite to sign up to get the shot at the convention center, especially seniors. And that's been going reasonably well, except that a lot of seniors are go-getters. So they sign up there, create a profile, and then they go get a shot at the pharmacy, and then they get the invite, and there's no way to say no thank you to the invite, and so it just sits there for 5 days. So what the OHA is saying is, hey, look, seniors, if you've signed up, created a profile, and then gone and got your shot before you got an invite to go to the convention center, please go back to Get Vaccinated Oregon and delete your profile. That way there won't be an invite that just sits there and waits for 5 days, and it can go on to somebody else much quicker and much more efficiently. Thanks for all your questions this week and all the weeks that we've been doing this. We're going to keep doing it. Please keep them coming in. I hope you have a great weekend. That's what's going on with the COVID vaccine today.
He's become quite the expert, hasn't he? All right, a quick update, by the way, on a story that we've been following for a while. And frankly, congratulations, Oregon City. You have a new mayor after kicking out the old one. Voters overwhelmingly chose Rachel Lyles Smith in Tuesday's special election. She's already a city commissioner, and she's been interim mayor since Dan Holliday got recalled in November. There she is. And by the way, if you need a little refresher on that whole situation, allow us to explain. People weren't exactly happy with the former mayor, Dan Holliday, last year. First, in April, when the state shut down because of the pandemic, Holliday considered issuing a declaration to reopen businesses in his city, going against the governor's orders. The state attorney general actually threatened civil or criminal action unless Holliday backed off, which he did. Then in June, in the thick of the George Floyd protests, Holliday got a lot of backlash for these social media posts that he made. One of them downplaying police brutality against black people, calling it, quote, hardly an epidemic. So a group got enough signatures to hold a recall election, and voters gave him the axe. All right, we've been talking a lot about food insecurity recently on this show and on KGW, quite frankly, because right now a lot of people are in a situation they have never been in before. They might have lost their job during the pandemic and they don't know if they're going to be able to put food on the table every night. So we're trying to raise 1.5 million pounds of food with the KGW Great Food Drive, which is going on right now. And I got this question from Paul. He wrote, "Where does all the food go that you raise for the food drive?" Yeah, that's a really good question. How does the food actually get to the people who need it? All right, so this year we're doing things a little bit differently because of the pandemic. We're collecting cash donations online instead of cans of food to keep everybody safe right now. That money goes to the Oregon Food Bank. They use it to buy food for all of their distribution partners. There's about 1,400 of them in Oregon and Southwest Washington. And these are food pantries, basically, where people can go and pick up food if they need it. And so far, we've raised enough money for more than 1 million pounds of food, but we want to keep going. So if you want to help out, there's an easy way. Just right now, open the camera on your phone like you're going to take a photo and aim the camera at that QR code on the screen. That'll take you to a web page where you can donate. You can also just directly go to kgw.com/food drive. And if you need food assistance, you can find info on that website as well. And we should mention all this week, local Toyota dealerships will match the first $10,000 donated. And a big thank you, by the way, also to Pacific Foods, Rivermark Community Credit Union, and Safeway for supporting this year's food drive. All right, keep sending in your questions, your comments, your hate mail, your complaints. Just kidding about the hate mail. And yes, you can use the hashtag HeyDan, even though I'm clearly not Dan. It's fine. And before we send you into the weekend, we're going to spend some time on a little retrospective. What have you learned in the past year? Lessons for all of us when the story continues. Welcome back. To state the obvious, a year later, we are not the same people we were before the pandemic. Maybe you've lost a loved one or experienced a major life change or just discovered something new about yourself. So Ken McCormick, one of our photojournalists here at KGW, asked people, what have you learned?
Oh, from this past year, cabin fever is not as bad as it seems.
I don't always need to be surrounded by people to feel happiness.
I used to dread phone calls and never want to talk or do FaceTime or anything like that, but I have just discovered the healing power of a nice long chat with one of my friends or family.
Just like this period of introspection has really made me kind of focus in on me and giving myself nourishment.
I think I've also realized that my mental health is never going to be consistent for the rest of my life. So I constantly have to work from it. But that's really been a big lesson this year.
It really kind of taught me that I need to spend more time with my friends, my family. I mean, obviously over Zoom, but it really taught me to slow down, which I think is really important for especially millennials.
You should pursue something that makes you happy. And if you're not, just quit, start over.
This year, I've definitely learned that family's been the most important thing. You know, gotta have a wonderful support system.
Just get to know people like on a more personal level and spend more time just doing simpler things.
Being able to make connections when it's not like you can't really just hang out with friends on a daily basis.
I'll learn how to help out the neighbors and friends, and learn how to social distance and still get together with family.
It's just really important to follow the CDC guidelines and everything they're telling us, and stay home, stay safe, wear your mask, and take care of your people.
Science helps. So I really get how much compassion we need in the world and how much we need to be taking care of each other.
Like trying to help out and like reach other people, because this has been a high time of need.
To try to be a lot more tolerant of people.
Why is that?
Well, I think we all need to try to get along a little better, because what's been going on this last year, just not cutting it.
This year I've learned to use my voice, especially in like Black Lives Matter protests, and to spread the word and to fight for something. I just learned to fight for things this year.
Stick together, learn from one another,
help each other and make it through. So yeah.
That's incredible. And it's so insane to think about how different we were a year ago. So hats off to Ken McCormick for that story. All right, we have a lot of comments in tonight, a lot about the mayor's plan for trash. David wrote in and said, Mayor Wheeler has a plan for everything, and yet here we are still. Indeed. We are here still. David, thank you so much. Laura wrote in about the OSU story with President Alexander and the accusations now coming from LSU. And she wrote, so now we're going to fire someone for something that might happen. And I think she's speaking to the concerns that Brenda Tracy voiced about students being afraid to report assault or afraid their claims wouldn't be believed. I think what Brenda Tracy is saying is that she thinks, and some other advocates have said, they want him fired for things that did happen that didn't come out during the hiring and vetting process. That said, as we said, the Board of Trustees is looking into it. They're going to release their findings after reading the report and kind of what they've come up with. So we will keep you posted. In the meantime, that does it for the story here on this Friday night. Thank you so much for joining us. Stick around for the news at 6:30. That's next.